Okay, I think we're live. This is fun. I haven't done this in a little bit. I'm excited to be here with you. We're just going to take a few minutes to, let anybody in who's going to join us for our practice and conversation today. Um, so I'm just going to, speak some words to give us a little bit of time here at the beginning before we get started. We'll get started real quick in our practice. I have every intention of making this very practice focused today to give us time to do this practice, this earth embodiment practice, this new earth embodiment practice that I teach, that I facilitate in all these different ways these days, most importantly in circle. I just got out of about 20 minutes ago a really powerful, our Priestesses of a New Earth circle. I've been holding that one for over a year now, and it's just a amazing space. I got to hang out with 9 women today as we did this practice. We went so deep and then got to share about all the ways that it is meaningful and impactful and powerful in our lives. And I think that's really, what I want to speak to up front. If you're someone like me, someone who comes from a science and engineering background, my mind is wired. Like, I want to know why I'm doing something, right? Why is something useful? Why is something practical? And I found myself over here in a space where I'm teaching guided meditations and I'm bringing through this sort of new earth activations. And sometimes it's difficult to for our minds to directly grasp why we're doing this. But, every time I show up and facilitate circle and I get to do this with other people, just the number of reflections that I get for all the ways that practices like this show up in our lives. And I think that's really, the power behind what we're doing here is that this isn't, something so simple that our minds can grasp it. Like, this is exactly how, when, and where this is going to show up in your life to be impactful. When the reality is that the work we do here is deep. And because it's so deep, it shows up, it manifests in all these different ways in life that, I think most of the time we don't even know. Like, we don't even know all the ways it's impacting our lives, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we do, and it impacts our lives in, the way we directly perceive the world. We spoke today, and we spoke all the time about all these ways that we can hold ourselves in the world, this ability to be able to hold more energy, hold bigger energy, whether that's the feeling of joy, whether that's the feeling of fulfillment, whether that's grief, and maybe you don't want to hold grief, but grief does show up in life. And the question is, can you hold it and can you move it through you in a way that's skillful? The same with anger, any emotion, right? This is the kind of thing we get to be able to hold and do so in a skillful way. And it goes so far beyond that. And this is why I continue to create videos like this, because I can just talk forever and ever and ever about all the ways this type of practice shows up in life. So, check out my other videos. I have an endless stream of, words to put to how this is impactful. The best way to join in is to join me in circle. Visit upwardslopes.com/circle. We've got 3 circles going on right now, ranging from, what I speak to as the most grounded, practical, like out in the real world kind of way we are being in the world, to what I might say the most mystical, magical, energetic in a way. So check out upwardslopes.com/circle to learn more about that. And let's get started. Let's get started in this practice today. If you've done this with me, you know this. If you haven't done this with me, I'll share a little bit that what I teach is a practice that kind of has the same components that I teach every time. But what it does is it creates a very simple structure that we can sort of expand and play in and work in. Um, Based on, what serves the space on each day and what's here. And, as I was speaking to in the circle I just held, we went deep. We went deep into this practice, then came out and expanded really far. I don't know if we're going to do a same kind of practice today, if it'll be a little bit different. But if you're willing, you're turning inward, starting to shift out of the space that is chatter and shifting into the space that is practice. This is your time. This is your time to be self, with self in all the ways that matter most. Your head doesn't need to know what that means. But that's the space we hold. What can best serve you today? Knowing that what best serves you today is that which serves the whole. That's the sort of field we get to work and play in. So starting to shift into practice space here. This will probably take about 5 to 10 minutes. Shifting into practice space. Starting by feeling your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair, whatever really connects you to ground. Feeling into that physical surface beneath you. As you start to breathe deep breaths down into your body. Breathing some deep breaths down into your body. And I invite you to maybe begin by feeling into your chest. You might, on your inhale, feel into the 3-dimensional expansion of your chest, your rib cage. Really breathing into the physical nature of your body. Your ribs as they expand on the inhale. And just exhale. Let your inhale naturally flow into the exhale. You might let your exhale just be an invitation to release anything that has your attention that doesn't serve to be here. So inhaling, breathing into your body, feeling into that 3-dimensional expansion of your breath. As you exhale, and just let go of anything that you brought into this space that doesn't need to be here. With each breath, maybe start to breathe a little bit deeper into your body. Maybe you breathe down into your abdomen. Feel into that same 3-dimensional expansion of your abdomen. Just going to stay here for another couple breaths, bringing your full focus into self, your attention, your awareness into self, into your body. And then from here, maybe you bring to mind that root, your root in connection to the chair, whatever surface is holding you, and breathing down into this space. As you breathe into self in connection to the ground beneath you. Breathing into self in connection to the ground beneath you. Just going to take a few breaths here. And then from this space, what we're going to do is start to descend further. We're going to start to descend further down into ground, down into earth. And as you do this, I invite you to bring in an attitude of allowing. This is not about forcing. It's not about trying to make something happen. This is more about getting yourself out of the way as you allow your consciousness to descend down through your root, down into the earth beneath you. Allowing your consciousness, your attention, your awareness to descend down through your roots, down through the floorboards, down through the foundation, down into the earth beneath you. At this point, you might invite in imagery, dirt, rock, root, soil. Is there water here? Sometimes there's fire here. What's here down in the earth beneath you? As the earth guides you downward. What we're doing here as we are guided downward is this earthy grounding practice. It's a practice of connection to this earth that is always holding you, that is always nurturing you, taking care of you. And you're bringing your consciousness to this. You're bringing your consciousness to her, this earth, this ground beneath your being. Breathing into this space. And again, you might invite in imagery. Perhaps you invite in the imagery of roots as they descend down from your root, down into the earth beneath you. You might tune into how deep these roots go, how wide and expansive these roots are. You might tune in to any nurturing characteristics of these roots. Breathing with these roots, being with these roots as they connect you into ground, into earth. So continuing with this practice, if you're popping in, feel free to just jump into the practice. Breathing with these roots. Do you feel any support here? Any nurturance here? Any other gifting from the earth here? And as you're here down in the earth, maybe you want to open your own heart, or other part of self, as you, through this root system, gift the earth beneath you. Gift earth herself through your gratitude or any other gift you want to give her. This reciprocity, it's our natural way of being with earth. As she holds us, as she grounds us, as she feeds us and otherwise cares for us. As she gifts us with all these beautiful and powerful ways to interact with other forms of life on this planet. Is there anything you want to gift her in return for all of this? Just giving yourself any last moment here. Any last thing to do here as you start to reascend back up into self. Taking your time as you rise back up into self. Calling upon your breath as you breathe into your physical body. Knowing that you can return to this practice whenever you'd like. Knowing that you can deepen and expand this practice anytime you'd like. have so many different ways to do it at this point. Coming back up into self, feeling your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair, feeling your body present in and as your body, as your whole sovereign being. Continuing to take your time to come back into self. I'm going to end our practice here today, focusing on this grounding piece. Often from here, I would then continue on the practice, sort of expanding maybe upward or outward to connect out into the earth, the world, community, ecosystem in different ways. There are so many, countless ways. There are countless ways that we are interconnected, and our minds, as brilliant and amazing as they are really limited in our ability to perceive and to otherwise understand all the ways that we are interconnected. And with that, the tendency in our world, right? This is sort of the main way we are as a collective humanity in our world these days, sort of focused like here. And we have such limited views of our impact on each other and on our worlds. We could maybe call it a very selfish, self-centered sort of view that we, as a collective humanity, often have in this world. There's a flip side to that, which is the way many of us haven't been taught to honor and be present with self. That's a whole other conversation. But what we're doing here, we're doing so many different things with this type of practice and these types of conversations. But say the number one thing I'm talking about these days that we're doing is this practice that brings us into an ability to be in all those connections that exist. And then as we're in this practice more and more, we get to experience, right? And have our mind come on board as we understand, sort of make conscious choices based on that heart-centered understanding of how interconnected we really are. So that as we move through life, we are acting from a space where we acknowledge, understand, honor, respect that it's not just me here. And the world doesn't exist for me, and I can do whatever I want to get what I want. Moving out into a space of everything I do impacts the whole web of life. Yes, it impacts certain people, communities, ecosystems more significantly than others. And there's understanding and work to be understood, acknowledged there. And also, there are actions that we take. There's also, our presence that impacts, through the ripple effect, I want to say the whole, right? The whole web of life. And you can kind of tune into this, maybe mentally, but also energetically, right? This whole spectrum, like through your actions and also through your presence, how you impact the world around you. And you can feel into that, how it impacts your immediate environment. That's an easy one, right? From the way you walk into a room, the words you speak, the actions you take, that impacts your immediate environment, the room you're in. And then expanding that out to how that impacts the communities, the family systems, the ecosystems that you're part of. And then expanding out beyond that, how that impacts lands, peoples beyond your immediate fears, right? You might expand that all the way outward to the way it impacts the entire globe. And you might notice that the further you go outward, the more difficult it is for your mind to comprehend everything that's happening. But even if we take it back to just the way you walk into a room, your presence as you walk into a room, your actions as you walk into a room, even there in this space, your mind cannot comprehend all the ways that you are connected to that system. Through your sheer presence, through the words you speak, the tone underlying the words you speak, your gestures as you're speaking, right? It all matters. And I'm building all this up, right? I'm building all this up to get to the point that the way we walk through the world, the way we are in the world, whether we are intentionally trying to impact the world or not, right? We work in so many different spaces here in this community. We work in spaces where we're kind of focused directly on activism and how we can intentionally show up to work in service to help others, be they humans, be they animals, be they forests, like my main body of work, forest regeneration, that is. Right, so there's that kind of space that we're holding space for here. But we're also holding space for the way you show up when you walk into a bar, the way you show up when you walk into your home, the way you show up when you walk into your job, the way you show up and walk through the grocery store. Let me tell you, that one matters. That one really matters. The energy you bring to a grocery store matters. It all matters. And that's really the heart of, the core of what we're getting at here. And this whole body of work, right? This is why I keep teaching this practice, like the one I taught today, the one that I teach in every sort of circle I show up, the one that I keep, making different forms of guided meditations for. So that as we do this practice, we naturally, organically, automatically, I'm using words to point to what we do without our conscious intention and consciously working through it. We just do it. We change. We become different people, people who do walk through the world with more skill, with more grace. We walk through the world just more naturally in tune with all the ways that we impact the world. We just do it. And I teach this because I recognize that this is what our world needs. Our world has been taught all these different ways that we are disconnected, that we are separate, that we are individuals. And there's truth in that. And there's importance and significance in honoring yourself as a sovereign individual. And that's why that becomes part of this work. But on the whole, what we're really focused on working on here is that expansive component, that remembering how interconnected we are. And as we do that, we walk through the world honoring those connections. We walk through the world caring. We walk through the world being able to make skillful choices about, yes, this is how this impacts me, and this is also how this impacts all other forms of life, be they family members, be they coworkers, be they people across the globe, be they animals, plants, trees. The whole web of life is what we're holding here, right? And again, bringing this back to the fact that that's so hard for our minds to comprehend. Like, try to imagine walking into a room Maybe it's your workplace, maybe it's a bar. And bring your mind on board and think about all the different ways that your behavior impacts everything, right? Think about a walk through the forest. This is one of my favorite guided meditations, right? A walk through the forest. Think about that walk through the forest and think about how your presence, your words, your gestures, all the noise you're creating, the steps you're taking. Try to bring your mind on board and have your mind comprehend every single way you're impacting your environment. You can't. Our minds are not designed to hold that for us. Thankfully, we have more of ourselves. We have our hearts. We have other parts of self that are able to sense, to feel, to tune in to more of what's going on. Maybe not everything, but more. Sort of the big pictures, this point I make over and over and over again, this like we live in the world from the neck up, right? It's like we've been taught this way of being where it's almost like we're severed at the neck. We've been taught not to live embodied. We've been taught not to trust our hearts, not to listen to our hearts. But it's not just our hearts, it's all these other parts of self, your feelings, your emotions, right? We've been taught to kind of push that away, to have this power over, to push it down, to control it. But what we're doing here is coming back into skillful relation with all of it. So that, yes, you're tuned into your feelings and your emotions and your heart and your senses. And you're doing it in a skillful way. And as you're skillfully tuned in, you're able to be present with the world in a much more expansive, much more skillful way. Whew. All right. It's almost half an hour of me just chatting away over here. Offering any comments here. We've got people coming in and out. If there's anything here to be shared, whether you're watching live or on the replay, leave a comment. This is why I love to hold things live. I love more than anything to hold circles where it's not just me over here chatting away, as much as I can do this forever. I love to hear from you. I love to hear what's coming forth for you in this practice. So much of the magic or the power of the practice is me over here guiding, you receiving, sharing what you receive, and us weaving from that space. Because it's that space, then we can focus in on the work to be done. We can focus in on how this very broad general practice really matters to you. So I'm going to continue to make these YouTube videos to bring through practice, to bring through conversation in a way that, shall we say, I'm inspired to bring forth to you. As I do keep hearing from you guys in the comments, it sounds like you're getting a lot out of it. So I'm going to keep continuing to do what I do. If you show up live and join me in practice, whether that's here on YouTube or better yet, live in circles held on Zoom, then we can weave together and then we can co-create. Then I can share over here and you can share over there. We can weave together and focus in on the places that matter to you. You can join me in those circles at upwardslopes.com/circle. It is part of the We Are the Forest membership. You can find that at upwardslopes.com/forest membership. You can find it all at upwardslopes.com. I'll link it in the description. That's the best way you can join me. join me in this body of work that is this collective state of healing and transformation in the direction that humanity is needing to go, is ready to go. And as more and more of us step onto this path where we are grounded, embodied, heart-centered, skillfully aligned, in tune with all parts of self, connected into this world, then we get to co-create this brighter, more beautiful planet Earth that I keep speaking to. One where we are lifting each other up, helping each other out, ourselves being supported by others and by our own selves. I'll share this vision. That I got when I first launched the We Are the Forest part of the Upward Slopes platform, which is, this body of work that we're doing here. So what I got was this image of this vision of a forest, and this forest being shown to me on this land that I live on is, a mountain, a forest that has been burned down and burned down again and burned down again, because I live in this area that's really going through a desertification process. It's a forest that is beautiful and radiant, but given, climate change and everything that's happening in our world, the forest is slowly dying and has become incredibly susceptible to fire. And because humans keep starting fires, the forest has burned down and burned down again and burned down again, such that when you walk out through much of the mountains, you're walking through a desert. The trees never came back, except in the places that us humans decided to replant them, in which case the forest has grown back beautifully and is radiant and thriving. And really being inspired by the forest, I got this idea to create, at the time I didn't know what I was creating back in 2022, but it's morphed into this space. And again, this vision, right? This vision of the whole forest growing back up. And as the whole forest is growing back up, it's not one tree over there fighting amongst the other trees, right? It's not one tree over there throwing tantrums because of selfish acts and selfish beliefs. It's the whole foundation, that whole ground, that whole mycelial network that's connected into a root system, the soil itself being regenerated as the whole forest grows up from there. And that's sort of the vision that I got that created everything, that serves the foundation for everything, right? This collective web of life lifting each other up. And this knowing that there is a way that humanity can live like this. And it's hard to imagine because in our world, we're so far from it. Everything is about battle lines and us versus them, me versus you. But there's a way of being on this planet Earth where we are supporting one another, lifting each other up, acting in ways where what supports me is actually what's also best for you. I can take care of my own needs and support you in your needs. And in doing so, we can support a whole community and a whole ecosystem. So that's the whole vision, right? That's the whole vision. And again, if you want to join in, upwardslopes.com/circle or upwardslopes.com/forest membership. That's the best way to do it at the time. Get there, sign up for the newsletter, try out my free meditations. If you haven't yet, go explore some of the different YouTube videos I've created. It'll guide you deeper into practice. If If you're just watching here at the end, you can go back in the video and do the whole practice that we did today. Once again, leave a comment. Let me know what was sparked for you. We can dance and weave and co-create in that way. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure on the newsletter so that you know when I'm going to be holding the next one of these. Okay, going to close down today. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your energy, your presence here today, and I look forward to catching you next time.